With all the advances Tesla's been making over the past few years, I thought it'd be interesting to make a video about the evolution of the Model S for both Tesla enthusiasts as well as people looking to buy pre-owned, to be able to understand the differences and changes throughout the model years. And I chose to use model years as opposed to trim levels because I think that's most important. And with that in mind, I have two trim levels here that are missing. That's the 2012 to 2013 year model, as well as the 2015 to 2016 year model. But nonetheless, I've got three beautiful black Teslas to compare. So let's jump right into it. And feel free to leave a comment below if I've missed anything or if I've misstated anything. Up first, we have the refreshed Model S 2016. Next, we have the classic body style in 2014, 2015. And last but not least, we have the 2013 to 2014 model year. First up, we have the classic body style in the 2013 to 2014 model year. Same body style that's been present until the refresh. This one had the matte spoiler. There was also a glossy variant, but that was short-lived. Again, very iconic and classic body style that's very familiar to those that know the Model S. It also had the beautiful gray turbine, 21-inch turbines, which are consistent to what they are even up to today as far as the standard 21-inch wheels go. One of the things you'll know here is that there is no front radar. That's the most notable difference here, is there's no front radar in the front there. And the sensors on this car along the bumper are just parking sensors. So you'll see that in the front, there is no additional sensor on the side or on the fender slash wheel well, nor on the rear quarter panel on the rear wheel well. There's that additional sensor for the sonar capabilities. That's not there. So what you see here is purely parking sensors that were just added. And they weren't originally with the 2012 to 2013 model. They weren't there. They were added. And those parking sensors are just around the bumpers for parking. They don't represent the true sonar capabilities for the autopilot. But again, very, very classic body style, looking very lovely in black. Next up, we have the 2014 to 2015 model, which was the end of 2014 in the advent of autopilot, or the introduction of autopilot hardware. And the most notable difference again is the front-facing radar that you see at the bottom. That's been added to the grille. Everything else remains the same. You have the standard or classic standard 19-inch wheels here. The new wheels are the slipstream wheels, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But you have the classic 19-inch wheels here on this one, no 21s on this particular one. It's the same body style. Same body style as the previous years before it. And again, the difference here is that you now have the additional sensor on the quarter panel and in the front fender. That's representative of the sonar capabilities of autopilot. Yep, and here again you have the sensor right there on the fender slash wheel well, outer rim of the wheel well, and again following up with the sensor and with the long range radar in the front to complete the autopilot hardware suite, in addition to the camera and other things that are there. We'll get to that in a minute. Next up, we have the refreshed Model S, which is pretty different to some degree, specifically on the front fascia. Completely removed the faux grille and a new hood style there, as well as new LED lights. One of the things you'll notice that the front-facing radar is actually missing. And it could be hidden behind the front bumper, or it could be underneath the grille. I'm not completely sure, but it's under there somewhere, and it's now maybe using some of the technology from the Model X to see through body panels and things like that, just to make it more efficient. And the reason they did that, I think, is because the original radar had issues where debris would get caught up into it. Snow, leaves, and other debris would be able to interfere with its ability to properly detect objects. And so they stuck it behind the grill somewhere there to be able to prevent that. Also just to create a sleeker and cleaner look. But for the most part, it's the same concept here. All of the front sensors are there, as well as the additional side sensor to complete the sonar capabilities for autopilot. Again, the rear quarter panel has that additional sensor, as well as all the sensors around the bumper. This particular variant is the 60D with the standard wheels, the slipstream wheels. One thing to note between the two different versions here is the fact that the body panels have some gaps in between them. And it's something that they fixed in the 2015 model. But what you'll notice right here is that there's a body gap here between the hood and the front of the car and the headlights. And that same body gap is consistent with the older models as well. You'll see that gap right there. And I guess for reference, you can try to stick a finger to see how big it is. I'll try to stick a finger right here, stick a finger in there just to see how big the gap is. I'll stick a finger on this one as well and see how big the gap is here. And then one thing to know is that the 2015 model, they fixed that. They decreased the size of the gaps. They addressed all the body gaps, cleaned it up, made it tighter within the inside, tighter seals all around the car, just to make it more aerodynamic. But again, those body gaps are gone. So if you see any of those newer cars, 2015, you'll notice that that gap right there is tighter, sealed up more tightly. The newer car, again, doesn't have that, keeping it consistent with that change. I can't even stick a finger in there. I can barely stick a finger in there. So they've sealed it up very nicely, made it more aerodynamic for both rain, water, and all kinds of stuff. The headlights, the HIDs in the old one, and then now for the newer models you have the LED headlights. These are the LED headlights which have the turn signal on the outside using LED technology, whereas the older ones were HID and the turn signal was more inset in the headlight. HID versus LED. Next up you have the charge port, which is now automatic and uses a different mechanism to connect to the body. The older model had a magnetic connector and was manual. That was more prone to corrosion based on water getting into it. In certain instances, it would get stuck. Let's take a look at the windshield here. There is a toll transponder provision, but no autopilot, so no front-facing camera. This windshield has a pretty standard design of the dotted lines around the entire windshield, but again, that one provision for the toll transponder is up there. This is the windshield of the 2014-2015 model. Pretty similar design as far as the dotted line going all the way around. However, there's no specific cutout or provision for the toll transponder as it was before. Instead, they tried a different approach, which is a dotted line at the top to provide more options of where you could put your toll transponder to make it work. Let's take a look on the other side. The dotted line is the provision here, and then you have your rain sensor and your forward-facing camera again for autopilot capabilities. Looking at the newest one, slightly different design, dotted line at the bottom, which transitions into a solid line. I don't know if I can see it here. All the way around. You have a better provision for the toll transponder, or so was the intent. Rain sensor, and then the forward-facing camera. On the classic, let's look at the roof rack. This is the classic panoramic roof. And then here are the actual doors that you have to open up to connect something to the roof. This is consistent throughout the years up until 2015. Looking at the 2014 to 2015 model, you're going to see the same situation, same panoramic sunroof design with the flaps that open up and down. And the roof is pretty much the same. The new model we had didn't have panoramic sunroof, so we're going to look at another car real quick. But you see the design is different. The flaps, the doors, I should say, are inset into the actual design versus on the edge, and they don't flip up the same way. So it's a redesign. Wasn't necessarily announced. It was just something that they did. They made it better. They made it seal better and more aerodynamic. The next thing to note is the rear of these cars and seeing how they've changed over the years. The rear is the same for 2013 to 2014 and 2014 to 2015 is also pretty much the same. But what you'll see is the difference here is right here on the rear reverse light, the backup light. Again, consistent between the two cars that are of similar years, 2013 to 14, 2014 to 15. But when you get to the newer ones, you'll see that that design has changed a bit. It's a different design. There's more depth there to that actual light. It's more concave right there, and the text is actually more embossed. Next thing you know is that the classic body style shared between the two older cars is this lovely rear diffuser, which I think is actually wonderful. Gives the car lots of character. It has that rear diffuser. The refresh has sort of minimized that rear diffuser, made it flatter, a little more simplistic, not as edgy as the older look, in my opinion. Different materials and a different style. Again, the older classic rear diffuser, and then the newer design for the rear diffuser there. And then the main difference again here is the body colored side skirts there. You have the side skirts that are all body colored, which doesn't make a big difference because it's black, but when you look at the older body style, you'll see the difference. The old body style had contrast. It was a slightly charcoal or slightly dark, light gray side skirt there that added some contrast and gave it some pop. Next we have the frunk. This is the frunk of the classic 2013 model. Again, rear wheel drive, no dual motors, so you have a very huge and massive frunk with the microwave area, space in the back for additional storage. Pretty big, lots of storage there. You also have the front there, the front hood, which is insulated. It was actually insulated, assuming that you had things there, and this insulation was there, and it also has the double latch system, which was more prone to having the front dent. So if you slam that hood down the wrong way, that second latch would cause a crease in the hood. Again, now we're looking at the latter model. Same big front because this is rear wheel drive. You have the cargo net there for the microwave space. You have the insulated hood as well as the double latch system here. Same concept. Double latches there. Now it's the new dual motor. Representative of the dual motor is in the newest model. The first thing that you see is that the hood is not insulated anymore. So they've taken that out probably to save some weight. The frunk is significantly smaller, both for dual motors as well as the HEPA filter, which is a provision in any case, whether you get it or not, it's a provision that's there. So the frunk is significantly smaller on this one, but it also uses a single latch system as opposed to the double latch. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe they don't need it anymore. Maybe it was just to prevent the front crease, but that's the system that they have now. Here's a look inside the back. This has the jump seats in it, which fold down into that bottom area, which is the same even if you get them now. I don't think those have changed for the most part. But the jump seats are there. This is the same size rear well and all the miles. I think it's consistent. One thing you'll note here is the subwoofer in the back for the ultra high fidelity sound system. So that blocks off that space because you have the subwoofer. But that space remains empty and open, and also connects underneath through the bottom. So if you have additional storage for cables or anything like that, you can use those there. And they go straight through under there. Subwoofer there, again, storage there. and it's consistent from all the years up until 2016. Looking at the 2016 model, again, same concept. This just does not have the ultra high fidelity sound system, so there's no subwoofer, and now that space is additional storage space for you. You still have space over there, you still have space there, and then again the bottom is still consistent across them. So it's all the same. Nothing really changed there. There's no power liftgate here, so the liftgate you just push down manually. Now the steering wheels back in the original models were actually leather. Real leather steering wheels were there. You could tell that by the feel of this piece right here. This piece right here would indicate whether this particular steering wheel was leather. If that piece right here is leather, then the steering wheel is leather. And it was very nice. It was a little thicker. The older wheels were a little thicker. But it has the classic stalks here, the old school European style stalks. Courtesy of Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz is the supplier for the steering column and steering wheels, so we're beholden to whatever design they come up with, and that was the design they had, which is the classic European style shifting position where the shifter was over there. And then you had the cruise control up top, and your turn signal was actually at the bottom. Very disorienting for people driving in America and being used to the scenario, the standard cars of turn signal at top and maybe cruise control and ancillary tools at the bottom. Here's the newer steering wheel. It's a little thinner. It's not made of leather. It's made of something else. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not authentic leather. It's smooth to the touch. It's not prone to scratches as much as the leather ones were. This one has the newer stalks, again, courtesy of Mercedes-Benz, whereas more conventional of a US-based steering column where you have the turn stalks where you would like them to be or you expect them to be. Turn stalk up top, steering wheel controls, and then cruise stalk at the bottom. And then the gear shifter there. 2016 has remained the same, exactly the same way, same stock, same setup. No changes here. The seats, you got the performance seats here in this particular model, which has the red piping and suede contrast on the bolsters. Now these seats usually have a pocket in the front. There's a nice little pocket in the front seat, driver's seat only, of the old cars, just on the driver's side. This is actually the headrest, very thin. This was the standard seat. This was the performance seat, but of a standard structure for all the seats. All the seats were the same size. Pretty thin bolsters, pretty thin headrests. It was very, very uncomfortable to sit in them, so they tried to make some adjustments. This is the newer version of the seats. This is not performance, but this is the second generation seats. Still has a secret pocket in the front, but these are the second generation seats, not to be confused with the next gen seats. There's a bigger bolster, more cushioning, more support for you, but again, these are second generation, not next generation. Here are the next generation Tesla seats, which have pretty much a new design. Bigger bolsters still, more supportive, more firm. I think they brought the production of these in-house as opposed to outsourcing them. A little longer, different design. The bolsters are really, really tight and firm. Headrests are big, but they're a little bit flat in the front. This particular one, there is no front pocket. They discontinued that for whatever reason. There's no front pocket there. Very thick, supportive, but flat in the front. Here are the rear seats, and these are the rear headrests. Again, not much support for people in the rear in the earlier models, but it gave you better visibility. It gave you better visibility at the back. And this is the view at the back that you get from the older models with the smaller headrests. Smaller headrest is how you can tell it's a classic or an older model. The rear seats in the newer models have bigger headrests for more support for your passengers, but it obstructs the view a bit more. Now that's the rear visibility of the newer model. Same view of the 2016 model as well. Same seats in the back, no changes. There's no metal inlay here. It's all plastic. No metal inlay here on the older models. It's just straight plastic there. Also on the newer one, it was straight plastic as well. No metal inlays in there. This newer one, they put the inlay in again. That started in 2015, but the metal inlay is in there just to give it more of a luxurious feel. The cubby space is there, and then you have the center well, if you will, which was standard as carpet. Pretty much the same as newer models, except for the latest model. Here's the later versions of that, where you have the yacht floor, which comes in your choice of materials, and it just provided a better looking place to put your things, and it just fit the car better. And this is what the yacht floor looks like. Big empty space for people to put their purses down or put their bags or their objects there. Some people don't like it because things slide around. I personally like it. I think it just adds more space and gives you more room to breathe while in the car. The newer one has the center console. We're all familiar with that, which gives you places to put things, but not necessarily more additional space. Again, softer materials right there on the armrests. So there was two types of dashboards. The contrast dashboard, which had the suede on the parts that you see right here. But this particular one just has the all leather or all single material dashboard. And then you also notice at the top there, right there, is the vents. This is a classic one, but again, this isn't the oldest one. The older ones had just the mesh grille without those vents there. But the problem was that it had poor airflow, or so people complained. So what wound up happening, because the airflow was so bad, they wound up putting the vents above the grill, and as a result, you now have better airflow. But the trade-off here is that now you get a nasty little reflection coming from those vents onto the window. You see that material there? It's like leather, or has texture to it like leather. This particular one, again, same concept, all leather, and the same vents that we talked about before. There's no contrast. All leather, no contrast. The newer one has a newer material all around. It's softer to the touch. It's smoother, less texture, almost no texture to it, but it's very smooth. It's also scratch resistant, more scratch resistant than the other textures. Again, this also can come in the contrast dashboard where you have the suede there. But again, very smooth to the touch. That's the main difference here. It extends again also to the doors. Very smooth to the touch. And then also what you see here is that they've restored or brought back the old mesh grille with the vents that are underneath. So now this prevents the reflections popping up on the window, and hopefully it resolves the issue of having more effective cooling and heating by, again, making some refinements underneath to what those vents do and how much air comes out to defrost the windshield. Here are the seatbelts. This is a similar design or standard design that's carried out throughout the years. Seatbelt. This is the other design. Again, same concept, the same design carried over throughout the years, and what it does rubs against that piece right there, and they put some special tape right there to prevent it. But what happens is it made a little bit of a noise over time as it rubbed against this. So the newer models, you'll see, is a completely redesigned seatbelt holster, where you have, if you can see it, it's kind of hard to see, it's a little dark in here, but hopefully you can see it. You'll see there's a piece under here that holds the seatbelt a lot better, so that it actually doesn't rub against the bottom of this. Now it's a lot smoother. It doesn't rub against this. The whole thing has been redesigned, probably in response to some of the complaints that we're getting with the older design, but that's what's new in 2016. Because there's no camera, the mirror sits up a little taller and it's a little smaller because there's no autopilot camera behind it. And then also what you'll notice is that the lights are a lot cooler and they're more LED reminiscent versus more incandescent of the warmer ones that the newer models have. Newer models, here we go. Here are the incandescent lights, the warmer lights, which I prefer actually the cooler lights versus the warmer lights. I think it fits the car better. And this was started once the dual motors came out.